Hey guys, it's Miss Frederick. Today I'm going to tell you guys my top 5 tips for passing the Florida Teacher Certification, also known as Ftce. So stay tuned. Okay, so tip number 1, designated study time. And what I mean by designated study time, this is something that you need to think of even before you schedule your test. You need to look at your schedule. For example, I'm going to use me. I had classes Monday through Friday from 10 to 2, and then I also worked a full-time job Monday through Friday, and I worked from 5 to 11 p.m. So prior to even scheduling my test, I analyzed my schedule and tried to see what time would work best for me for when I can actually sit down and study. So what I did was oftentimes I would study on Saturday and Sunday. I would go to the library. I would tell my family, don't ask me for nothing because I'm unavailable. Nope, I can't do that. Nope, I can't go to a grocery store. Nope, I can't pick him up. Nope, I can't do that. No, no, no. So I made sure they knew that I had designated study time and I would be at the library and I'm unavailable. Also, my school was about an hour away. I attended FIU and I lived in Fort Lauderdale. So since my school was about an hour away, I know that seems unrealistic, but when I took the turnpike, I would leave early in the morning. And for some reason, it was always backed up. It would take me at least an hour to get to FIU. Trust me, if you know what I'm talking about, if you live in that area. But anyways, I'm getting off sidetracked. So it took me about an hour to get to school. So what I realized is that I should record myself reading my notes and going over the answer. So instead of listening to the radio for that hour, I'm actually reviewing my notes because I'm listening to myself and I'm going over the answers. So I actually did that as I was going to school and then coming back home. Okay guys, so tip number 2 is to make sure that you understand the way that the test is structured. Meaning, for example, if you're taking the general knowledge test, understand that for the general knowledge test, that test consists of reading, writing, and math. Also understanding that for the math, there is a computer calculator that is provided for you. Whereas if you're taking the subject area exam, that consists of language arts and reading, math, science, and social studies. And for the math portion on the subject area exam, you're not given any calculators. You're just given your reference sheet. And you're also given a reference sheet for the general knowledge. So I would say understand how the test is comprised, see how it's broken down even more, and then analyze or be honest with yourself and try to how can I word this? Be honest with yourself and knowing what your weaknesses are. For example, I'm going to use math. For the math, I know that the math is broken up, so I'm just going to make up some numbers. But I know that there's a data and probability section. For the data and probability section, that is comprised of 33% of the test. There's a geometry portion. The geometry portion is comprised of 22%. Then they have number sense. The number sense portion is comprised of 10%. And these are percentages I just made up. So what I'm saying is look at the test, see how it's broken up, and then look at which areas you know are your weaknesses. So I'm just going to use my book for example. I'm guessing back when I was taking it, I would look at each portion. So for example, I see language arts and reading in this section. Let me show you guys what I would do. So I see that language arts and reading in this section, it's comprised of 45 questions. And then on the top, I put need to have 33 correct responses. So that when I'm actually studying the test, I actually go back and count and see if I had at least that number correct, so that I at least know what they're looking for. And then also on test day, I would do that. I would go and just work out all the problems that I understood first, or answer all the questions that I understood first. Then I would go back and work on the ones that I was a little uncertain about. So that's tip number 2, just to make sure you understand how the test is structured. And then also make sure you understand which areas are your weaknesses, so that when you're studying during your designated study time, You know which areas you need to focus more on. And then also, when you go to have your tutorial sessions or tutoring sessions, you know which areas to tell your tutor to focus on. So tip number 2, just make sure you understand the test and how it's broken down, and you target your weaknesses. Okay, so tip number 2 leads straight into tip number 3, because once you understand how the test is comprised, you understand your weakness areas and what you need to focus on, and you have your designated study time. Now it's time for you guys to actually find the materials that you want to use to study from. So I use several books, and I pulled information from the internet also. So the first book that I use is the Cliff Notes. I believe this is the Cliff Notes Ftce Elementary Education K through 6, because that was my certification area. I use this book. I also use the second edition. So this is the first edition, and then I also purchased the second edition. Forgive the appearance, it is used and abused. So I use this one also, the Ftce K through 6. Another book that I use, which was fairly cheap off of Amazon, I purchased this, I believe, is another Ftce K through 6. And the other book, so it's like several books. Pretend like you didn't hear that. And the other book that I used was this one, Ftce Elementary Education K through 6. Okay, so tip number 4 is to get a good night's rest and to also make sure that you eat breakfast. Now I'm going to give you guys a little story time, so come a little closer. Okay, so let me explain what happened. It all started, okay, let me be for real. Okay, so the first time I took my subject area exam, I ended up passing the math and the reading portion. However, I failed the science and social studies part of the exam. I know. Anyways, so I remember taking the exam and I was sitting in there, and then out of nowhere my stomach just started growling. It was like, and for some reason I was like, okay, it's fine. I'm the only one that knows that my stomach is growling. However, moments later, the person sitting next to me, she started going, so then I was so embarrassed. So then I had 2 options during that time. I was like, okay, we both just gonna have to sit here and listen to my stomach and just get over this, or I'm gonna have to get up and go get some water so my stomach can subside just a little bit. So what I ended up doing was going to get some water. However, since this was the second time I was taking the exam and I was only taking 2 sections, I didn't get any breaks. So when I went to go get water, my test time was still running, so I had to go quickly. Now I say all of this to say it's best that you get a good night's rest and that you eat breakfast in the morning, because the last thing you want to worry about during your test is that your stomach is growling and it's causing a distraction, not only to you, but the people who are sitting around you. So please make sure you eat breakfast so that you're not like me. The last tip that I have, which is tip number 5, is to believe in yourself. Now, if you know that you did everything you were supposed to do, meaning you had your designated study time, you reviewed what the test is comprised of, you picked out good resources for you, you've actually been studying with yourself, doing whatever you need to do to make sure that you understand the material, and that you actually had a good night's rest and you ate breakfast, then just believe in yourself. Trust and believe that you did everything you were supposed to do. And however it turns out, that you believe in yourself and that you tried your best. That's like what's most important. Now I remember I told you guys my little mini story during tip number 5. And if I'm honest with you, I did not really study for the science and social studies portion. I just thought that I can go in there and then I would just miraculously pass, and that wasn't the case for me. Another thing I would say is that I also didn't give myself enough time to study for my what is it called again? So many different subsections. I didn't give myself enough time to study for my actual subject area exam, meaning like it was Friday and I scheduled the exam for 2 weeks out. That wasn't smart. So I'm giving myself, I already work Monday through Friday. I go to class Monday through Friday, and I only have really Saturday and Sunday to devote study time to. And I choose to take the test 2 weeks later. That made no sense. So pretty much I was cramming, and I didn't give myself a sufficient amount of time to study. So don't be like me. Do exactly what you're supposed to do, meaning pick designated study time, please, and stick to it. Don't just write something down knowing that it's not realistic for you and in your life. Pick designated time, stick to it. Tip number 2 was to review the material. Please review the material. For example, when I went and took my subject area exam, I didn't know that the math portion didn't allow me to use a calculator. I walked at the test and said, "Sir, there's no calculator on the screen." He told me, "This section doesn't have a calculator, ma'am." That's my fault. I should have known that prior to coming into the exam. So make sure you review the test. You understand what it's comprised of, what resources you're going to be given ahead of time. Also make sure you understand how many questions are on there. What are your weak areas? Meet with somebody. Don't be embarrassed to get help. Don't be. Everyone needs help at one point or another. And we can't do everything ourselves. Tip number, I believe I went to 3 and 4. No, I went to 2 and 3. I kind of combined those with my rants that I go on. Get a good night's rest. Please, that's not the time for you to be cramming. That's not the time for you to pull all-nighters. Get into bed. You did what you were supposed to do. You got this. Make sure you eat breakfast. Please set your alarm. Set 2, 3, 4 alarms. Please don't. Because also, the reason why I didn't get breakfast that day is because I overslept. Rushed to make it to my test area. So make sure you get a good night's rest. Eat breakfast. And believe in yourself. You got this. Trust me. And last but not least, pray, teach, and slay. Hi guys, thank you for watching my video all the way till to the end. The main message that I want you guys to take away from this video is that regardless of what education certification you're taking, understand that you can do it. It is possible. I believe in you, but what's most important is that you have to believe in yourself. You have to be focused, and I know that you guys can do it. So thank you once again for watching my video all the way till the end. And always remember, pray, teach, and slay. Bye. Yeah, don't forget to comment down below and subscribe. And also, I'm going to try to have an upload every Wednesday and Saturday.